The bride was crying so hard she couldn't speak. Not happy tears, not overwhelmed tears, devastated tears, the kind that come from knowing this is the last good thing that will ever happen to you, that in 6 months you'll be gone, that this wedding, this moment, this joy is all you have left. And George Harrison, 24 years old, standing next to her in a tuxedo at her wedding reception, leaned down and whispered something in her ear. Something nobody else could hear, something that made her stop crying, made her smile, made her laugh through the tears. Then he did something that made the entire room go silent, made 200 wedding guests stop talking, stop eating, stop breathing, just watch this moment unfold. What George did in the next 10 minutes would be talked about for the rest of that bride's short life, and long after. Remembered by everyone who witnessed it as the most beautiful, most heartbreaking, most perfect thing they'd ever seen at a wedding. This is that story. September 24th, 1966. Liverpool, St. Mary's Church, 2 p.m. Catherine Walsh was getting married, 23 years old, beautiful, radiant in her white wedding dress, veil cascading down her back, flowers in her hair, every detail perfect, every moment precious, because Catherine Walsh was dying, leukemia, diagnosed 6 months earlier, aggressive, terminal. The doctors had given her a year, maybe less. Treatment could slow it but not stop it. She had months, not years, and she'd made a choice. She wasn't going to spend her final months in hospitals, wasn't going to waste what little time she had fighting the inevitable. She was going to live, really live, and she was going to marry Thomas Reed, her childhood sweetheart, the boy she'd loved since she was 16, the man who proposed 2 weeks after her diagnosis, who said, "I don't care if we get 6 months or 60 years, I want every day I can have with you." The wedding was small, family, close friends, people who understood what this meant, that this wasn't just a celebration, it was a goodbye, a final gift, the last beautiful thing before the darkness. Catherine had one wish, one dream that seemed impossible. "I want the Beatles at my wedding. I know it's crazy. I know they're too famous, too busy, but they're my favorite band. Their music got me through the diagnosis, through the fear. If I could have anything, it would be them, playing at my wedding, making it perfect." Her mother, Marie, couldn't bear to tell her it was impossible, couldn't crush that hope. So she wrote a letter, addressed to the Beatles, care of their management company in London, not expecting a response, just trying, just hoping for a miracle. "Dear Beatles, my daughter Catherine is getting married on September 24th. She's 23 years old and she's dying. Leukemia, terminal. This wedding might be the last happy day of her life. She loves your music, listens to it constantly, says it makes her feel less afraid. Her dying wish is to have you at her wedding. I know this is impossible. I know you're too famous and too busy, but I'm asking anyway, because sometimes miracles happen, and my daughter deserves one." She mailed it, didn't tell Catherine, didn't want to build false hope, just sent it into the void and prayed. 3 weeks later, the phone rang. "Mrs. Walsh, this is Mal Evans. I work for the Beatles. We received your letter about Catherine, about the wedding. The boys want to help. They want to come, if that's all right with you." Marie dropped the phone, picked it up. Is this real? You're serious?" "Completely serious. They were very moved by your letter. George especially. He insisted. They'll come to Liverpool. They'll play at the wedding. No charge, no publicity. Just for Catherine." Marie cried. "Thank you. Thank you so much. This will mean everything to her. Don't tell her. Let it be a surprise. The boys think that would be special." September 24th arrived. The ceremony was beautiful. Catherine walked down the aisle on her father's arm, weak, tired, but glowing. Thomas waited at the altar, crying, watching the love of his life walk toward him, knowing their time was limited, making every second count. They exchanged vows, in sickness and in health, for as long as we both shall live. The words hit differently when you know exactly how long that will be. The reception was at a small hotel, ballroom rented, tables arranged, modest, intimate, about 200 guests, family, friends, everyone who loved Catherine and Thomas, everyone who wanted to celebrate with them while there was still time. Catherine sat at the head table, happy, exhausted. This had taken everything she had, but it was worth it. This was her wedding day, the day she dreamed about since she was a little girl, and despite everything, it was perfect. Then someone at the back of the room gasped, then someone else, then whispers, growing louder. People standing, looking toward the entrance. Catherine turned, confused. What was happening? 4 men in tuxedos walked into the ballroom. Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, the Beatles. At her wedding. Actually here. Actually real. Catherine's hands went to her mouth. No, that's not. They're not. Mum? Marie was crying. They came, darling. For you. They came. Catherine tried to stand. Couldn't. Legs too weak. Emotions too overwhelming. She started crying, sobbing. Not gentle tears. Full breakdown. The weight of everything. The diagnosis. The fear. The dying. The wedding. And now this. The Beatles. Here. For her. The Beatles walked to her table. Paul got there first, knelt beside her chair. Catherine, I'm Paul. We heard about your wedding. Thought we'd stop by. Hope that's okay. She couldn't speak, just nodded, crying too hard. John knelt on the other side. We brought our instruments. Thought maybe we could play a few songs if you'd like. Sheil, more nodding, more crying. Ringo smiled gently. You look beautiful, Catherine. Congratulations on getting married. But George didn't kneel. He pulled up a chair, sat right next to her, at her level, eye to eye, and he put his hand on hers. Catherine, can I tell you something? She looked at him, this quiet Beatle, this guitarist she'd listened to for years, here, touching her hand, talking to her. Yes, she whispered, you're scared. I can see it. You're happy about the wedding, but you're terrified about what comes next, about the time you don't have, about leaving Thomas, about dying. Am I right? She nodded, fresh tears. I've been thinking a lot about death lately, George said quietly, about what it means, about what happens after. And I've been reading Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, and they believe something beautiful. They believe we don't end. We transform, that death isn't an ending, it's a transition, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You don't stop being you, you just become something else, something more. Catherine listened, still crying but quieter now, focused on his words. I don't know if that's true, George continued. Nobody knows, but I choose to believe it because it makes death less scary, makes it feel like part of the journey instead of the end. And I think you're brave, so brave, to get married knowing you don't have much time, to choose love even though it means leaving it behind. That's the most courageous thing a person can do. Catherine squeezed his hand. I'm not brave, I'm terrified. Brave people are terrified. That's what makes them brave. They're scared, but they do it anyway. You're getting married, you're celebrating, you're living, despite everything. That's courage. He stood up, still holding her hand. Now, today isn't about dying. Today is about living, about celebrating your marriage, about dancing and laughing and being happy. So let us play for you. Let us make today perfect. And you can worry about tomorrow. Deal? Catherine smiled through her tears. Deal. The Beatles set up their instruments, borrowed equipment from the hotel's event room. Paul on bass, John on rhythm guitar, George on lead guitar, Ringo on drums. No microphones, no amps, just acoustic, intimate, perfect. They started with All You Need Is Love. The room sang along. Catherine and Thomas swayed in their chairs. She was too weak to dance, but she moved with the music. Let it fill her. Let it be enough. Then Here Comes the Sun. George sang it directly to Catherine, changed one line. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since you've been here. But here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. She cried again, but happy tears this time. Grateful tears. This is the best day of my life tears. They played for an hour. Every request, every favorite song. Yesterday, Let It Be, In My Life. Each one perfect, each one a gift. When they finished, George walked back to Catherine. One more thing. We wrote something. For you, just now. In the car on the way here. Want to hear it? You wrote a song for me? We did. It's called Catherine's Day. Want to hear it? She nodded, unable to speak. George sang. Simple melody, simple words, but perfect. About a girl who was brave, who chose love, who lived fully in the time she had. About how some people shine brightest when they know their time is short. About how that light doesn't disappear. It just changes form. When he finished, the room was silent. 200 people crying. Catherine, Thomas, their families, everyone. Because this wasn't just a song, it was a blessing, a goodbye, a promise that she mattered, that she'd be remembered. George hugged her, whispered something in her ear again, something nobody else heard. She laughed, wiped her tears, whispered something back. Then the Beatles left, quietly, no fanfare, no autographs, no attention. They'd come for Catherine, played for Catherine, said goodbye to Catherine, and now they were gone. Catherine turned to her mother. What did he whisper to me? At the beginning? I don't know, darling. What did he say? He said, you're going to be okay. I promise. Even when you're gone, you'll be okay. You'll just be somewhere else. Watching over Thomas, watching over everyone you love. You'll be free. And I believe him, Mum. I actually believe him. Catherine Walsh died on March 12, 1967. 6 months after her wedding, 6 months of living, of being married, of being happy despite everything. She died at home, Thomas holding her hand, her family around her, peaceful, ready. At her funeral, Thomas played Catherine's Day, the song George had written, the song nobody had recorded, that existed only in the memory of the 200 people who'd heard it at her wedding. This is Catherine's song, Thomas said. George Harrison wrote it for her, gave it to her, made her last good day perfect. I'll never forget what the Beatles did, how they showed up for a dying girl they'd never met, how George sat with her and made her less afraid. That's who they were when nobody was watching. Kind, generous, human. George Harrison never spoke publicly about Catherine's wedding, never mentioned it in interviews, never used it for publicity. It was private, sacred, between them and a dying girl and 200 witnesses who kept the secret. But in 2001, when George was dying of cancer, one of Catherine's cousins, who'd been at the wedding, wrote him a letter. You made my cousin's last day beautiful. You made her less afraid to die, and now you're facing the same thing. I wanted you to know that what you gave Catherine, she'd want you to have too, that you'll be okay, that death is just transformation, that you'll be somewhere else, free, watching over everyone you love. Thank you for everything. Rest easy. George died 3 weeks later, peaceful, at home, family around him. And some people who were there said his last words were, Catherine's Day, the song he wrote for a dying bride. The reminder that transformation, not ending, waits for us all. September 24th, 1966, the Beatles went to a wedding for a terminally ill bride they'd never met. George Harrison sat with her and made her less afraid to die. They played music. They wrote a song. They gave her one perfect day. That's not fame. That's not business. That's love, pure, unconditional, given freely to a stranger because it was needed. That's the Beatles. That's George Harrison. That's why they mattered. Why they still matter. Why they always will. Not the hits, not the success, the kindness, the humanity, the willingness to show up for people who needed them. Even when nobody was watching, especially when nobody was watching. Catherine Walsh got her miracle, and George Harrison gave it to her, with a song, and a promise, and a hand to hold. That's everything.